New York Knicks center Mitchell Robinson recently went down with a right hand fracture, and it just came out that he's scheduled to have surgery next week, and he should miss anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Now, on the actual play that Robinson was injured on, we saw him jump up and attempt to block a shot with his left hand, but in doing so, he made contact with Julius Randle with his right hand, and right after that, we saw that he grabbed at that hand and he was shaking it out in noticeable pain. Now, the specific fracture that Robinson is dealing with is something known as a fourth metacarpal fracture. And so, since some people may not be too familiar with this diagnosis, we're going to take a very close look at that in today's video. Welcome, basketball fans. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, my name is Nick Gallo, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. And with today's video, we're going to take a very close look at that fourth metacarpal fracture that Mitchell Robinson recently suffered against the Washington Wizards. First, I'm going to show the actual play that Robinson was injured on so that we get a good visualization for his mechanism of injury. Then I'll go over the specific anatomy associated with something known as a fourth metacarpal fracture. And after that, we'll go ahead and we'll look at some potential surgical options and the typical time frame to recovery. If you like today's video and you find it informative, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because I will be making more videos in the future regarding sports injuries, rehabilitation, and other physical therapy related content. Also, if you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the comment section below. Now to begin, let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the play that Robinson was injured on.
Here we see Robinson goes up to block a shot, but he makes contact with Julius Randle with his right hand. Right after the play, we see him grabbing that right hand in noticeable pain, and right after that, we see that he's noticeably shaking the hand out because it's continuing to hurt. Slow down and zoomed in, we see right here the contact that happens when he jumps up to try to block the shot.
So here I have a model of the hand and wrist, and so the two bones of the forearm, the radius, which is on the thumb side, and the ulna, which is on the pinky side, they come down, and then the next row of bones is something known as the carpal bones, which form the wrist. And right after the carpal bones, we have a section of bones known as the metacarpals, or commonly referred to as the hand bones. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metacarpals, one for each finger. And so we know in this case that it's a fourth metacarpal fracture. And so in order to count these, we need to remember that the first metacarpal always starts with the thumb. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or right next to the pinky, or if you want to think of it as the ring finger metacarpal bone. Now, usually the mechanisms for these types of metacarpal fractures is when somebody is going to have something like a direct blow or direct trauma to the hand. And so in that play, when we saw Robinson jump up with his left hand to try to block the shot, we saw that right hand make contact with Julius Randle. And so this is a typical mechanism that we do see for these types of fractures. Now, metacarpal fractures can be treated either non-surgically or surgically. We know in Robinson's case that he's going to have surgery on the hand. So we just don't know specifically what type of surgery is going to take place. Now, commonly, a person is going to get either pins or they're going to get either a plate and screws put in order to stabilize the fracture. It really depends on how unstable everything is and how displaced it is. Now, once again, we don't know the specific type of surgery that Robinson will be having, but typically something is inserted into the bone in order to provide optimal stabilization for adequate healing. So we should expect to see something like that with this injury, but if the details do come out, I'll be sure to update everybody on the specifics of the surgery. Now, a general timeline for recovery from somebody that is going to have any type of metacarpal surgery is going to be around that 2-month mark, but this is really going to depend on how that person does in things such as specific hand therapy, how their x-rays look, and how their follow-up appointments go. So it's really going to depend on how all those aspects go in the recovery process. So I think at this point that the Knicks have said anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. I think that is optimal, but we're going to need to make sure that we pay attention to how the recovery process goes in order to determine the adequate time frame for him to return to the court. If he has a follow-up appointment and the x-rays look good and he's doing great in hand therapy, then I think that 4 to 6 week time frame is definitely reasonable. But there are some things that can delay the healing process, so it'll be really important that we just pay attention to his case. If there are any updates on the recovery process for Robinson, I'll be sure to update everybody in the comment section. And that's it as of right now regarding Mitchell Robinson's most recent fourth metacarpal fracture. Once again, if you really like today's video, please subscribe to the channel because I will be making more videos in the future. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.